What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Want to Know podcast. My name is Avery Hill.
My name is Lyle Alison.
My name is Will Horseman.
Yep, that's really their names. Today, we're going to talk a lot about coaching. Terry Smith, I think, is something we can start with. We want to talk about James Franklin, of course, at Virginia Tech. Then we'll get into a little bit of Senior Day and Nebraska. Guys, again, Terry Smith, all week, reporters, us, the media, we've asked, is Terry Smith the guy for Penn State's next full-time, obviously, head coach? Want to get you guys' take on it. Is it realistic? And, what do you think Terry Smith could bring if he's that option?
I think realistic is kind of a hard thing for me to gauge because, in my opinion, if I'm the Penn State Athletics administration, right, if I can't get Kalen DeBoer, and that's only, if Alabama loses to Auburn, that becomes a realistic possibility, I think, just because if you're Alabama – not making the playoffs, 2 years in a row is not the furthest thing from the standard. Obviously walking into a position replacing Nick Saban. But I think if they lose to Auburn, they don't make the playoff, I think there's a high chance he's gone. And Penn State should make a move at him. So him and Eli Drinkowitz. If I'm Penn State and I can't get either of those two coaches, I think you ride out with Terry, right? But however, 1 year deal, 2 year deal. Just because the nature of the coaching carousel right now, Penn State is not the top job. They're clearly striking out on names that they wanted to start with Signetti, Mike Elko, inking contract extensions. I'm not putting Matt Rule in that conversation. I'm not going to do it. But it's just there's so much belief that the players we've heard from this week that has been instilled with Terry at the helm. You're walking into an impossible situation with a guy that's been in charge of this program for 12 years, well, over 11, whatever, not a numbers guy. That's why I'm in communications. And then you've got a season that, honestly, they were supposed to be national championship contenders. And you've got a tough scheduling walking into. But guys are believing him. He's fighting. He's not quitting. He's not making any excuse. He's very honest. He's not being around the bush, right? He's not running away from things that he's got to talk about that are hard. And when you look at what's going to likely happen with the staff turnover, we're already seeing, which I'm sure we'll get to in a couple minutes, the roster turnover that's likely looming. Terry Smith is honestly the glue for the most part as far as how many guys are going to come back, right? So like I said, the two guys I talked about, if you can't get either of them, I think Terry's the answer. Obviously, he's a short-term solution. I do not think Terry Smith is a full-time head coach. I could be wrong. Come back to this in a few years. If that ages poorly, here you are. You've got it. But I think if you can't get those two guys, and just based on the current market, just keep him around, right? He's got belief. He's got some support. Obviously, everyone externally outside the program, on social media, Penn State fans, they believe in him. So why not give him a shot? Yeah,
that guy, Terry Smith, he cares about Penn State football. Obviously, we all saw him at the presser on Monday. He got really emotional and talking about how much that win over Michigan State meant to him. And like Lyle mentioned, it's he walked into an impossible situation, but it's they still they took Indiana down to the wire. They beat Michigan State. They have a favorable spread against to beat Nebraska, and they probably will against Rutgers. So it's I think Terry he's kind of keeping the morale up, especially for this team that could very well just quit. And instead they're keep fighting. They still have a shot at bowl eligibility. And I think, again, like Lyle mentioned, it's the player retention. It's Terry Smith is a big part of that. So it's keeping him on board, whether it's as head coach or maybe even as in some sort of general manager role. That could be interesting too. But yeah, Terry Smith's staying apart with Penn State, it would be huge for roster retention this offseason.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you guys. I think the biggest thing with this whole coaching search is every week you're losing candidates. You talk about, again, Elko. You can talk about even Jeff Brom. Everyone is getting extended. For those that don't want to throw Matt Rule into there, Matt Rule, again, as you said, Signetti. Everyone's getting extended just about every week. I think every week that you bring this head coaching search on, you're going to lose out on guys, which means once the one or the couple of options that you can wait it out for would be, as Lyle mentioned, Kalen DeBoer. I do think that even if Alabama does not fire him, I just feel like Kalen DeBoer at some point is going to get sick of trying to live up to being Nick Saban, and it's not even his fault. You really can't blame the guy because I'm taking the Alabama job too. When do you want me there? I could live on a cot, outside, in the woods. It doesn't matter. I don't know what woods are. I don't know the Alabama landscape like that. Only been once. But either way, I don't, and even if you have to live, 5 hours away, I'm coaching at Alabama. That's the point. But I just think that if you get in that situation, and Kalen DeBoer, he might get sick of it. I mean, his family, of course, that's a lot for them to deal with. The Alabama faithful, they're tough. I don't think they're, the worst fan base in the nation, but I do think that expectations are extremely high. I mean, Titletown, where legends are made, whatever catchphrase saying you want to throw there, there's high expectations to be at Alabama. So I think it would be the perfect fit. But that also means if you're Pat Kraft, what I'm doing is, okay, let's get to that last game, see what happens. If Kalen DeBoer beats Auburn, you just go ahead and move on with say, hey, Terry, still do due process and everything. I know Terry said he hasn't gotten a formal interview yet. I think you definitely need to do that. I think you need to hear his vision. I think you need to get him outside of that space of just go. I think you need to really sit down with him and see if he's a guy. But I think you get him and say, hey, 3-year deal. Make it fair. 3 years. I wouldn't expect, if I'm Terry Smith, a huge money commitment from Penn State. I think that he hasn't, checked off enough boxes to say, okay, he's going to get paid like the James Franklins. And he knows that. I think obviously he's going to push for it. It's like, I'm bringing back all these guys. I'm helping you guys keep this, keep that, keep continuity on the roster. But I think at the end of the day, that is the guy that is probably best at this point. Again, I'm not even big on Drink right now. I don't think, because I think, to me, he's like the fifth best of all the options at the beginning of the cycle. And I think if you're just going to keep going down, you've got to go. But, yeah, Terry, as the guys talked about, he makes you want to run through a brick wall. I think we've all seen his halftime speech against Michigan State. That's Terry all the time. That's Terry now. That's Terry about 10 years ago, as Jordan Lucas talked about, being in between the fart and the poop. Terry is a motivator. Terry has his catchphrases. Terry really knows how to get the guys going, and it seems like he's getting more comfortable every week. Even the fact that outside of the Ohio State game, Penn State was basically in every single game under Terry Smith that it lost. And even the Ohio State game, they were in it at halftime. It was a good showing for a team that clearly was way better than Penn State. So I think if I'm Penn State at this point, give Terry the keys, try to keep who you can, because I think part of the problem is trying to replace the production that you got from a James Franklin-led program at that point.
My thing with Terry is that we talked about this front office role. There's been some speculation of that being an idea. And I think it, makes sense, right? He understands the landscape of college football. He knows what it takes to recruit. He knows what it takes to balance between making sure guys are coming for all the right reasons, plus, the NIL financial component. But it's honestly, if he's not the head coach here, I really think he's just going to follow James Franklin. Because, as much as he says he would consider a front office role, and he loves Penn State, that's been made clear between the tiers, between him talking about how much this opportunity has meant to him, and being a former player, having a bunch of his family come here. He's a football coach at the end of the day. That man loves the coach. He loves bringing out the best in young men in that cornerback room. I don't see him not being on the sideline. And I think you kind of see that with, you talked about his fire, right? You see that from him as a coach. And you can have a fire in a front office role, but it's not the same thing as watching your cornerbacks go lay a big hit on a wide receiver. You feel me? So it's just I really don't see him moving away from that. Now, if I'm whoever is coming on board next, if it's not Terry, I think he's the first guy that you try to retain from this staff, given his level of investment to this university, how long he's been here, how he understands it, the sport he is from the administration, the fans, the players. He's that guy. A bunch of guys have referred to him this week as he is Penn State. He bleeds blue and white. He knows what this program is. That's why you go get him. We'll see where this lies, right? If he's the head coach, given where the other candidates fall, I wouldn't be surprised. If he's not, again, I wouldn't be surprised. There is no surprise, honestly, with this situation. But whoever it is that next coach is, if you're Pat Kraft, honestly, regardless if it's the head coach, I think it's a priority to get Terry here.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting part about it. You can talk about him being general manager, but again, that speech that happened at halftime, you're not going to get that from your general manager. If I'm a player, I wish the general manager would come down there and try to tell me what I need to do. I'm just saying. That's just, you're going to expect the guys that coach you every day. You get the most interaction with the players every day. And general manager isn't the only role he could have. There's many roles that aren't coaching on the field that, have different impacts and that have more of an impact on the players. But I just don't see it being a thing. I think obviously again, he said he'll entertain it, which is why we're entertaining it. But I think he wants to be a coach. I mean, obviously, yesterday I asked him about, would you consider, joining James Franklin? And he didn't really, he didn't really give an answer, which is telling in itself. I mean, he said if he started going into infinite possibilities. I don't really think he was ready for the question because he paused before he even answered. Usually he's able to go right in, but he said it, and I saw him just like, then he was like, so I don't think that it is a lock for him to stay at Penn State at this point. I think there's been a lot of overreactions on Twitter thinking that, okay, he's gone. This dude is gone. I don't think any coach should not entertain the possibility to join a coach who, again, Terry Smith says he talks to James Franklin every other day. That's what he clarified yesterday. He talked about the fact that, James Franklin said that he would pick him as interim head coach in the event he was no longer the coach of the Penn State Nittany Lions. See what happened now. So I don't think that it is a spite to Penn State for him to, not really be all in on returning to Penn State. I think he'll explore his options. I think that if it makes more sense to stay at Penn State, he'll stay at Penn State. But if not, I can certainly see him going to Virginia Tech. I think he can go right back into his role as associate head coach and cornerbacks coach. Maybe he gets a promotion. There's a lot of, different factors right there, but I think that could happen. But with that, I do want to transition to the man that is at Virginia Tech officially right now, James Franklin. Obviously, at the time we were recording this yesterday, he had his big introduction. Started thinking about big games now, but he had his introduction to start out. I mean, guys, I'll toss it right to you. What were your impressions?
Yeah, James Franklin said to the Board of Visitors on Tuesday, he is not he's not a big Metallica guy. So it says everything you need to know about James Franklin right there. Excuse me. But just walked out to enter Sandman in their basketball arena, Castle Coliseum. Spoke to the crowd of, I don't know what the crowd was. We were in State College, not in Blacksburg. But, you heard of a lot of the same things that you hear at Penn State. Some things never change. Obviously, you talk about the alignment, right? And that's important because obviously you need to be aligned to do these things. And obviously the State College runway is small, and so obviously just you need to have the alignment.
How you doing, Lau?
Good.
How you doing?
Good.
How you doing?
Yeah, nice to see you too. But you heard a lot of the same things, right? And obviously that's who he is. He's not going to change. He's an old school football coach, just that he clarified with his press conference. And he thanked Penn State, referred to them as Penn State, not the previous institution, which I thought was notable. From here on out, they're probably going to be the previous institution. But obviously, he said his vision, right? I think honestly, James, he talked about how he had some time to reflect. Being away from the sport for a few weeks at all, for the first time in a long time, right? Which is something he hasn't been able to do. Obviously, we all were under the impression, the whole college football world was under the impression that he was going to get right back into coaching. That's not who he is. He's not the guy to sit around and go absorb that paycheck that he was so gracious from previous administration here at Penn State and Sandy Barber. But it's just like, I think it's a good fit for him. Right. The deal is reportedly 5 years. No financial component of that has been released. And I do not think this is James Franklin's final stop. Now, I know we're planning really far in the future. Virginia Tech's got good resources. They've got a proven track record of being able to win football games. It's the ACC, right? Not a strong football conference, as James Franklin has said multiple times last year. It's the Big Ten and the SEC. It's a good stepping stone for him, right? He's got away from, all this not being able to beat Michigan, Ohio State. The big game narrative is obviously going to follow him down to Blacksburg. But it's just like, fresh start. Virginia Tech fans are really happy about this hire, right? They think he's going to do big things. I think he's going to do some big things there. And when I say that, I think we're looking at an 8-4, 9-3 season probably within the next 2 years, just to the nature of how things go. Obviously, I think we're going to get more into specifics in a second here. But just overall impressions, I think he did a good job. He handled himself. I think having reporters not address him, asking how he was, not the right move to start, I think. But that's just who he is. Showed a lot of character of just who he is as a person, both the highs, the lows, everything in between. He was grateful for his time at Penn State, but, clearly he's got to move on, and that's what he showed on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think Virginia Tech is a great spot for him because, competing the ACC, there's no longer the Ohio State, there's no longer Michigan, there's no longer an Oregon. It's like I feel like James, he has a much more clear shot to a conference title, to the playoffs, and I think he could, if he stays at Virginia Tech for a long time or a couple more years, then really just the next couple seasons. I think he can build them into like a consistent like 10-win seasons. I mean, obviously you look at the recruiting. I mean, he's recruited the DMV area so well, and then there's also some Penn State commits for 2026 that are already scheduled visits for Virginia Tech this weekend, and so I think Franklin he's set up well in Blacksburg, and I think like he can rebuild the Hokies into a power in the ACC.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I noticed is the buy-in is there from Virginia Tech. Mm-hmm. I think that was one of the questions that I kind of discussed on psucollegian.com. Again, psucollegian.com. You can go to the football tab, you scroll down just a little bit. You'll find it. There's a lot of stories, so I'm blanking on the headline right now, but you'll find it. There are different things that you must wonder, from Virginia Tech's perspective, how can they really mesh with James Franklin? It was actually a grading of the move as a whole, just to help you guys out a little bit, but just there's a lot of factors to it. James Franklin, he is, to put it lack of better words, he's a control freak, and I don't think that should come off as in a negative connotation. I think that he's the head coach. I think that he really wants to run the show. I think that he's seen what it takes to build programs. Obviously, he hadn't crossed that final step to get a national championship, but you can look at his record. You can look at, the 10-win season. I think it's 6 10-win seasons at Penn State. I mean, you can look at, his bowl appearances. He's in the postseason every season, but I think the 2020 season, of course, the COVID year. James Franklin is a winner. I think that people misconstrue winner, especially in the college atmosphere, because I think college is different than professionals. I mean, there's more teams, different things like that. I think that the stakes as a winner in the NFL is a Super Bowl. In college football, that is, like, you can look at Frank Beamer, obviously, who you said he got a blessing from. He pulled all the strings of the I was about to say Happy Valley faithful, the Hokie faithful. He really knows how to. I mean, he's a psychology major. He knows exactly what he's doing. Talking about Frank Beamer, and I'm sure he did it. I don't think it was anything
about Brent Pry.
Yes, crying about Brent Pry. Like it's been a very emotional week with anybody associated with Penn State. Jordan Lucas,
first press conference as a player.
I'm gonna just say everybody crying. That's what it is. Everybody crying. So I mean, senior day should be very interesting. But
Avery and I might cry after that one. Like, who knows?
Yeah. But
our senior day, that is.
Yeah, of course. No bias. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But back to James Franklin. I think that he has the fans behind him. I think he has the investment that he needs. I'm not sure, what exactly the stakes were from other programs, but I do know that James Franklin went to Virginia Tech and he wanted to know this is exactly what you guys have. Like, he doesn't want somebody that's like, oh, what do you need? We'll sit. I want you to be ready. They had their over $200 million budget approved, of course, increase to the athletic department. That'll make a big difference in, helping James Franklin not just recruit, but, have the resources to recruit. I mean, whether it's facilities, whether they want to go into their own stadium upgrades. And everybody was laughing at James Franklin when he walked on the field because he's like, where did I just come? Like, it's a total different atmosphere from Beaver Stadium, but it also is one of the best atmospheres in college football. Enter Sandman, in my opinion, obviously I haven't been there, is the best entrance in college football. I want to be there one day just to see it. I mean, I think it'll be very interesting. I think, again, he has the backing of everyone, but, I mean, that kind of brings me to another point. I mean, you look at the, recruiting realm. He has a lot of visits coming up this weekend, a lot of guys that he's able to poach, and obviously, Lau, you asked the question. I mean, you asked Terry, what is that threat that James Franklin poses as a recruiter? I mean, he said it straight up. He's going to take the guys, not just the recruits, but he's going to take the guys right in Penn State's locker room. I think that brings it to a lot of different guys that we can see, make their way to Blacksburg by the end of the season. We've already seen some staff changes. I mean, guys, what do you think is, the biggest? What is, I guess, the biggest change that might happen as a result of James Franklin at Virginia Tech?
Yeah, because you said it. The way I prefaced the question was, Terry, is a threat, right? And that's just as a threat as a recruiter, but that stems all across the program. You look at recruits, the current roster, coaches. When I say coaches, that includes staff on the front office too. We've already seen a bunch of staff changes going through as expected. We've been talking about this, but Kevin Thrakel and Andy Frank, both guys that have been James Franklin's inner circle in the front office for a long time at multiple spots. They've departed from the program, Penn State that is, and they're following James to Blacksburg. Look at a couple of recruiting guys, Chris Mahone, Rashad Elby, and E.S. Hawkins, who is just more of an NIL type role, former Letterman. They're gone off to Blacksburg. You look at the players, right? That was the first thing Terry said. He's like, I got to make sure I'm recruiting the guys in the locker room because James has been in the homes of every single one of these guys on the roster right now. And there's going to be some of those guys that are going to want to follow him. It's only a matter of time, right? We obviously, if Terry's around, that could change because he's just like he said at his intro press conference, he's recruited about 70% of the roster, 75. So that'll be a little back and forth battle if Terry's still around. But obviously, head coach, you've got a relationship with all the guys. Terry, he's got a relationship with most of them, but it's not the same as the head coach, right? And you look at the recruits. Terry answered that part of the question, talking about the hardest part of dealing with these recruits right now is it's hard to commit with no permanent head coach. And you're seeing that, right? I think Penn State, as of following Kevin Brown, I think Tavian Branch yesterday was the most recent one to decommit. They're down to 12 guys, I believe, in that 2026 class right now. And I think 7 of them are visiting Virginia Tech this weekend, which I wrote about this in like my recruiting article, just guys.
Where at?
PSUcollegian.com, football section. Give it a click, give it a read. And it's just, I wrote about a bunch of those names, right? And I think I forgot one. Like that hasn't, of the 7 guys, I think one guy I didn't mention is making their way down to Blacksburg. So I think that just says something. And it's just, you've got half the class, Penn State's class, they're going to take a group visit together all the way down to Blacksburg. And I point out like Troy Hune, right? California guy who's been as loyal as one of the top guys in the 2026 class to the process. He's taken multiple visits across the country during the summer, the spring, this year. He visited a UCLA game as a fan, right? He's got crystal balls to go to Virginia Tech right now without even having seen the campus. So I think that just says something. Look, for James's pros, for his flaws, he's a good recruiter. Players love him, and you're about to see that, and Penn State's going to feel the consequences because of it.
Yeah, I mean, players love him. I mean, Penn State's entire 2027 class all decommitted after he got fired, and then the 2026 class is slowly dwindling more and more every passing day. So, I think recruiting, because it's like Lyle said, it's like Penn State doesn't have a head coach right now, so it's like it's not fully possible to like get people to commit. But I mean, the recruiting of players like inside the locker room, that's probably the most important, because I mean, you look at guys like Chaz Coleman, Kobe Howard, Yvonne Kamaju, like those like young players that have a lot of potential that can be like big parts of Penn State future. Like if they follow Franklin to Virginia Tech or hit the transfer portal to somewhere else. So it's like, I think that's probably one of the more important things for Penn State this offseason and like roster retention, because like next season it's like who knows what the roster could look like. I mean if it's the roster's the exact same this year as next season, I mean look at the defensive line, like Chaz Coleman would be a key player, but I mean, who knows what happens with like some of these like younger guys that still have eligibility left.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, this is it's insane that I didn't think going into this season that fateful October 11th Penn State Northwestern game would lead into this. We're talking about guys going to Blacksburg, Virginia,
Yikes.
Virginia Tech, and no disrespect to Virginia Tech, obviously, incredible program historically. I wouldn't put him as a blue blood, but I would put him somewhere under there. They haven't won a national championship. That is obviously part of being a blue blood, but I mean, a lot of history there. But Penn State to Virginia Tech to the ACC, that's different. But another person whose life has really changed since that October 11th day is Drew Aller. We got a chance to speak with him for the first part. Well, I didn't get a chance. I was a little busy. But you guys got the chance to speak with him for the first time since, obviously, his season-ending broken ankle. What was kind of your impressions? I mean, give us a little bit of a glimpse of what Drew Aller was like in his first time speaking to the media.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, spur of the moment. You know, you guys probably don't know how we get our media information, right? They send out an email every week with the schedule players on Zoom, what time is practice, all that fun stuff. They sent it the night before. I think it was last night or 2 nights ago, Thursday with Drew. And we were like, oh, surprise. Because, like, during James Franklin, like, you don't get to talk to injured players, whether it's short-term or long-term. Obviously, we knew he was out for the season. So I'm just curious how that came about. Obviously, we don't know the answer to that. But it was about, you know, kind of what I expected. He talked about his recovery process, you know, what it was like for him, that 72-hour stretch where he broke his ankle against Northwestern. James Franklin was with him in the hospital, we learned, that night. Next day, James Franklin addressed the team for a team meeting, telling the news he got fired. Drew's out there the next day flying home to go get surgery, right? So it was just, you know, we haven't got a chance to speak with him. We've seen him, you know, on crutches, on that motorized scooter kind of thing. And for the situation that he's given, like, he's been around the team. He's traveled all the away games since his injury. Just kidding. He wasn't at Iowa. But, like, he's just, you know, he's around. He's trying to help these guys do his part, keeping everyone hyped up on the sidelines. And That's about what he talked about, how important it was for him to stick around, make sure he's with his team. Because he's been a big part of this. He's a captain. Guys have looked up to him, and he just felt like it was the right thing to do. Obviously, this is whole season for him with everything that's gone on. It's been a lot, as he explained. But, for someone that's been through an emotional roller coaster, the highs and lows, I think he handled it very well. Chip on his shoulder, right? He said it because he was quoted saying his best football still ahead of him. And you know what? That's what you got to say, right? Given everything that's happened, obviously, I don't think his college career panned out the way he wanted, or Penn State fans, or even college football fans, wanted, just because of his pedigree coming out of high school. But I think he did a good job. I didn't really expect too much out of this. I think he said what he needed to be said. Didn't give a clear timeline. So we'll see where that leads down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was cool to see how he said it was his obligation to stay with the team and still be a key voice and leader for the team in these weeks, because he could have kind of left the program and just focused on his recovery and the upcoming NFL draft next April and all that, but instead it's he's still with the team and still traveling to away games, except Iowa obviously, but I mean, yeah, I think that was kind of cool to see a team captain still kind of feel he has those obligations with them.
Yeah, I mean, stock up Drew Aller, obviously. Yeah. He has grown as a leader all of his time during Penn State, and he's making a big step. To kind of shift to our last topic real quick, I want to go rapid fire. Penn State, Nebraska, obviously, we haven't talked anything about that. Just give me one thing to look out for on Saturday.
Yeah, are they going to cheer for Matt Rule? No, I'm just kidding. I think this is a matter of the ground game, both sides. Katron Allen and Emmett Johnson, both two of the better running backs in college football this season, I'll say. Katron's 139 yards for breaking the program's all-time rushing record. Emmett Johnson's fifth in college football in rushing yards. Two really talented guys. Penn State's D-line has improved past couple of weeks in terms of just stopping the run and generating pass rush. We'll see if they get to him in the backfield. Nebraska's rush defense, on the other hand, not good. They've given up the fifth most yards per game, I believe, or the fifth worst rushing defense in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So it's something I'm keeping my eye on.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the quarterbacks. I mean, entering the year, we thought it was going to be Drew Aller, Dylan Raiola, but now it's Ethan Grunkmeyer, TJ Lateef. So, I mean, Lateef, he had 13 of 15 passing for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns against UCLA. Grunkmeyer, he had another standout game against Michigan State. So I think it could be interesting to see the two younger guys kind of showing off some of their potential a little bit as they kind of take on these roles that obviously we didn't expect them to take entering the year.
Yeah, I mean, I will say real quick about TJ Lateef. I'm seeing a lot of Ryan Tannehill numbers. He'll throw for 5 for 7 for 50 yards. It's kind of funny. But I think it's a pass rush for Penn State. They've really gotten going in the last 2 weeks. Terry Smith talked about bringing the Prowler package back, which, guys, obviously is their big pass rushing specialty package. They're going to get there. I mean, you'll see a lot of different things, a lot of double A gap. You'll see, okay, why is there 4 defensive ends in the game? They want to get after the passer. I think it's a really good opportunity for Penn State to get after another team, get after another, quarterback. And I think it'll be very interesting to see how they mesh, because if you think about Jim Knowles, he's been trying to get that team ready. And I think if you can go 3 straight weeks of solid performances, no matter the competition, I think that I can definitively say this defense is 10 times more comfortable in his scheme. Well, for Illini's last time during a Penn State football regular season week, and studio, of course, this is all we've got for today. Thanks for tuning in. For more coverage, you can visit us at psucollegian.com and follow us on socials. You can also subscribe to our newsletter, psucollegian.com. Click newsletter. You'll get content curated right to your inbox every Friday and every Monday. Don't just do football. You can do wrestling. Our wrestling editor is right there.
Tap in.
You can do general as well, but obviously I'm going to pitch football right to you. But again, that's all we have. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.